Hello everyone, my name is Gus, and today we have a video of us diving. Actually, Woody's not in town for us to record a reaction, which actually gave me enough time for me to go and review some of the footage from our trip a couple months ago to Abaco, to the crystal caves of the Bahamas. So when you go to Abaco, when you're a cave diver already, and you have to be a cave diver and kind of know what you're doing, meaning brand new cave divers are probably not going to be able to go everywhere. We certainly didn't go everywhere. There's some rooms that Brian Kaycock, who is the protector basically of these caves, he mentioned that there are some rooms that he only takes like a handful of people to in the world. But notice that this dive is going to get pretty tight. Listen to Woody. By the way, as I mentioned, Woody's not here today, so I'll have all the commentary, but he has 100% of the underwater commentary, so you're going to hear his voice since he's recording this dive. This dive was about 2 hours long, maybe a little bit over 2 hours. I caught a lot of it because, a lot of it is the same thing over and over, so it's about 45 minutes or so of footage. But one thing that you will notice is that it's going to keep getting tighter and tighter and tighter. But just to go back to the comment earlier, what happens is when you go there, Brian, on day one, he wants to take you on a dive kind of to check your skills before he turns it up, before he increases kind of the level of skills that are required to execute one of these cave dives without having to, without breaking all the formations that took tens of thousands of years to form. So this is day two. We actually did 2 dives the day before. We went to Crystal Palace, which we already posted. I'm going to link it up here. Gorgeous stuff. That's right, Woody. And, he saw us diving, and he was like, okay, you guys are ready to move to something more complicated, something harder. So this is that dive. What you see right now is we are on our way to the Sanity Room. You can see I'm pointing out all the formations in the ceiling. Basically, throughout this whole dive, there will be formations in the ceiling, so stalactites. All of these are pure crystal. And there will be formations coming from, I guess, the bottom, which are stalagmites. Sometimes there will be columns, meaning the stalactite and the stalagmite connected and made a column. But in a lot of cases, they're just either or. They also have helictites, I think they're called, which is they grow sideways, which are pretty interesting. And all kinds of weird shapes, but I don't think we saw any of them in this dive. I think we saw it the next day when we went to Fangong Forest. So anyway, we're diving, and what I want you guys to pay attention is kind of the level of, not so much the skill, but the level of calmness, right? And kind of taking it easy that we're all taking here. We're kind of taking that submarine pace. Very, very slow, although submarines can probably go super fast. I have no idea. But we're going very, very slow and methodical. We don't want to break anything. So, if you panic easily, this would be a really bad place. I don't know what he said. But this would be a really bad place because you would destroy everything. Look at the ceiling. It's like tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of stalactites made of pure crystal. And obviously the bottom is full of stalagmites, so you have to kind of be in the middle. Now, one thing that I want you to notice in this dive is that there's a bunch of different variety of kicking techniques that we use. Sometimes I'm doing like a weird yes, wow, that's right. So you notice sometimes I do like a weird kind of kicks. It's like, I call it like an egg beater, and that comes from water polo. I used to play water polo. But like an egg beater kick where I'm like just circling my legs. Then I do frog kicks, and in some cases we even do flutter kicks, but they're all modified. They're all modified to prevent kicking up the silt that's at the bottom. Everything you see in here, brown, I'm going to bring my mouse, all this stuff is silt. There's silt everywhere. We're just not kicking it off. But there are some places in the video where I actually don't do a great job and I kick it up, so you will see it. I left them all in there so you can see that there's silt, and you can see that I'm not perfect. I'm nowhere near to be perfect. Okay, now let me stop it right there for a second. Let me go back just a couple seconds. Notice that this thing right here, this is mine. It says Gus on the back. You just can't see it on the back part right here. This is what we call a cave cookie. Brian also left one. Is white, is right here. He used a different type of cookie, but we actually use these for navigation. So this is a T. We're going into the cave. The idea is that if something happens, like all of our lights break, all the silt gets kicked up, we don't see anything, we can follow this line, and when we get to this T, I can literally with my hand feel this way and touch these cookies, telling me that the exit is this way, right? So we put the cookie as we go into the exit side. The idea is I get here, I'm not going to go left and get lost in the cave. I go right because those are the cookies. I also pick up my cookie, right? Telling the team that I was there and I picked it up. If somebody's coming behind me, Brian, in the middle of no visibility, and I made a mistake, let's say I went left, he will know that I didn't go right. I didn't go the right way because my cookie will be on the line, right? That's the whole point of using cookies. And, you know, that comment came from the Donald Cerrone video. Is one of the most popular comments. It's like, you guys don't understand. His friend took the line out with, you know, and left them with nothing. Well, if Donald Cerrone was following rules, he would have put a cookie on the exit side and his friend wouldn't have taken away the line. That's just cave diving 101. All right, so here we keep going. Notice that it's getting tighter and tighter. The ceiling is right there, the bottom is right there, and Brian is giving us instructions. Go down, go right, get it? And you see Woody is circling with his light. You will see his light will do like a big circle like that. That's to tell him, okay, I got it. Sometimes he talks. You will hear him say, okay. And we can hear each other underwater with the rebreather. So there comes the hole. And by the way, during these dives, I was number 2 in line. And I'm just trying to do everything Brian is doing. Now, Brian is probably on the top 3 cave divers in the world. Certainly, by a lot of people's opinions, he's the best overall diver in the world. So he's way better than me at diving, especially cave diving. So I try to mimic him. In some cases, it kind of looks like what he did. In some other cases, not as much. Like in here, for example, where he didn't even kick. It was effortless, and I do have to kick to help myself through it. Brian is a big guy, by the way, as well. Not as big as me, probably, but he certainly is not, you know, like an Olympian or something. And, you know, I love it because every time we go on a dive, I'm like, Brian, are you sure I can fit? And he just looks at me and he's like, I can fit. Yeah, but you're the best cave diver in the world. So anyway, here we go. And you can see Woody in some of these restrictions. You know, it would take me, I don't know, whatever, 5-10 seconds, and Woody can do it in 3 or something. Like, he's half my size. So he's sideways right here. That's why the camera's kind of sideways. And I don't know if you noticed, but his chest basically was facing those tiny straws. And you can see there's silt at the bottom here. That was probably my fault. So, yeah, we're trying to kick and not pick up silt, obviously. But you see, I mean, look at this stuff right here. This is a column. And, I mean, it's so thin. Like, if you kick it, it's broken. That thing probably took like 100,000 years to form. I have no idea. Don't quote me on that. But those things don't form in a couple days. First of all, in order for these to form, this cave had to be dry. Formations like this don't form in wet caves. They're flooded now, but they used to be dry on the last ice age or something. And obviously dripping water over time, you know, makes that formation, makes those stalactites and stalagmites. So it takes tens of thousands of years. But you can see there's silt. There's silt everywhere. We're just not picking it up. Like, I'm trying not to move my fins. I'm trying to be Brian Kaycock. Failing miserably. Only Brian Kaycock can be Brian Kaycock. But, you know, we're making it. So that's a small restriction. A little bit of silt. Yeah, there's nothing I can do there. It's just too tight. And you can see Woody just whoop. A little bit of scratching on the tank, maybe, but I mean, he just squeezes through those things. He's like the perfect cave diver body, you know, tiny and super nimble. I am more of a submarine. You see, Brian is telling us, like, use your hands. I don't know if you noticed. Let me go back a little bit so I can show you. See, he's telling us use your hands, don't kick. And Woody said, okay. He's still looking at all the formation. I mean, there's just tens of thousands of them. It's just insane. I'm just preparing, getting the right angle, and I'm telling Woody, go sideways, use your hands. Again, I'm just mimicking Brian. And he said, okay, and here we go. We're both diving the Kiss Sidewinder. It's a side mount rebreather, and there are certain places in these caves where you can only go if you have a side mount setup, either a side mount rebreather or side mount open circuit, but you cannot go back mount. So back mount doubles, back mount rebreathers are not allowed. So I have to go sideways here because of that column on the right. I don't know if you can see it. It's this thing right here. So since this one is bigger, Brian said, touch the big one, don't touch the small one. So you can see my feet are so close. Okay, I didn't break it. Whew. We made it. We made it, guys. But still kicked up some silt in the process. No big deal. And Woody just slides on through. No problem. So yeah, when I have room to kick, I can do front kicks. But there are some places where I have no room to kick. So you can see my kicks get narrower and narrower. And now I'm doing this flutter, modified flutter kick where I just move my feet. My legs don't move, just my feet. I wish Woody captured a little bit more of that. I'll do it later. But if you guys notice, I'm still, you know, creating propulsion, but I'm not moving my legs, just my feet. And I do that by literally pushing down with the tip of my feet. Just, you know, like, I don't know how to say it, but yeah, just push down with the tips. And that allows me to do that flutter kick. All right, now notice in there, I'm going to go back for a second. Notice in there we didn't leave a cookie. And the reason for that is because it's not a T, right? It's not a T, so if I'm following the line, once I hit this rock right here, I would use my hand and feel that, oh, there's no line over here. There's only a line over here, so that's the way I'm going, right? So that's kind of how that works. And this is a good example also because we do get a question of why don't you just tether yourselves to the line? If it's so dangerous, why don't you use like a carabiner system or something to tether yourself to the lines? Because it will be impossible to dive. Well, not impossible, but it will be not enjoyable whatsoever. I mean, imagine I have a carabiner and I hit this thing, and then I put it right here and hit that thing, and then I change it to right here and hit that thing, and then that thing. And I mean, the line is connected to rocks and things along the way. There's cookies and arrows pointing to the exit all over the place. This right here is probably a survey thing. That's why it's a marker. It's not an arrow. It's like a rectangle, and it says stuff on it. So anyway, this is why this is a good example of why we don't tether ourselves to the line. Because it's, I mean, it would be a nightmare to make progress. You just have to know where it is. You just have to be aware of where it is. In this case, it's easy. It's right beneath us. So if something happens, I just literally just sink to the bottom and I'll be on top of the line. All right. Sketch down. He's telling me be careful. By the way, notice that this column right here is already broken. We didn't break it. I think Brian told us that that was broken even when he discovered the cave. Like something happened and it had fallen over already. So I'm just paying attention, going sideways. Careful with that thing. Very, very careful. Kick, 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 kick to pivot. And I'm probably going to silt this place because I'm too low. Yep, that's exactly what happened. But that's okay. Another big question that we get often is how long does the silt stay in place? The answer is depending on the type of silt. So in some cases, the silt is just up for like a few seconds and then it settles. I love that because it's like a beach sand kind of consistency, quartz, whatever that is. So like you can stir it up and then within like 5-10 seconds it's back to great visibility. And then there's some other silt that is like powder, is such a pain and it can be up for weeks. So if you stir it up really bad, I mean, you can't wait it out. Some people are like, if it's silt out, why don't you just wait it out? Because you can be waiting for days. So notice it keeps getting tighter and tighter. And that's the problem in some of these. You see the kicks? Tiny, tiny flutter kicks. And that's the problem in, at the crystal caves, is that you're not just tied, but the stuff around you is very, very fragile. So I can't just panic. Like, imagine if something bad happened on a tight spot. And we're going to go through several tight spots in this dive. Imagine if something really bad happened there and I lose it and I panic and I start spinning and kicking all over the place. Well, I'm going to destroy all these crystals. Like, look at them, just hanging from the ceiling and stuff. I can't. Imagine here. Imagine I panic right here. Look, I'm surrounded by formations. Kick, 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 kick. Tiny kicks. Don't break anything. Woody is going to follow suit. Right, and this is why training is so important. And I know that during the Adventures with Purpose reaction, we talked about training, and, the comments were kind of split, although I think that most people are pro training, especially if you find like a good instructor, obviously. But some people were like, well, how else are you going to learn if you don't actually do it? Well, imagine actually doing it without training in here. Imagine your first cave dive and say, well, how are you going to get better at cave diving if you don't train? Just go in there. Well, on your first cave dive, something bad can happen and they can destroy the cave. That will be really bad. So that's why we do a lot of training before we actually come here to the crystal caves. All that stuff hanging. Look at that. Crystal, 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 crystal. All this stuff, crystal. All that stuff. It's crazy. Everywhere you look. It's unbelievable. I also want you to pay attention to Woody's breathing pattern. How relaxed he is. Listen. Exhale. Breathing. Oh, he's talking. Yeah. Unbelievable. Stuff hanging. Holy mackerel. He's showing us draperies. They're called draperies. I don't know if you can see them based on the lighting. But right here you can see they're kind of flat. They look like curtains, basically, made of total crystal. Like, this is a good example. I could stick my hand behind there. I'm not. But I could stick my hand behind there, and you can see my hand through it. It's like stained glass, basically, and is purely made by nature. Obviously, we don't want to touch that thing and break it. You can reproduce it. So just listen to the breathing and compare it to that Adventures with Purpose video. So calm. So once again, we are arriving at the Sanity Room. Sanity Room, I think the story is... Brian told us the story. It's from a song. It comes from a song. But he found this room. And he's telling us how the ceiling collapsed. But everything in here is just crystal. Look at this. It's like an explosion of crystal. I don't know what happened there, but Woody is having a good time. Let's just say. Look at this, indeed. And the plan was to make it to the Sanity Room. And Brian said, we're going to get to a place that looks like a poker table, like a cards table, like at a casino. And that is when I will ask you if you want to keep going deeper into the cave or if we should turn around. So you'll notice at some point we get there. He didn't say where it was. He just said, you'll know when I get there. And you see I'm showing Woody. I'm dropping a cookie right here. This is a tea That's to, once again, signal the exit. So anyway, we're swimming towards that poker table of some kind that Brian mentioned. Alright, let's see if we can watch Woody drop his cookie. And pink, of course. Boom. That's it. Keep swimming. So this room is massive. It really is. It's like a concert hall. I mean, it's just humongous. And you have to go through a lot of tight spots to get to it. So it's just really, really cool to experience these caves, because when you think it's getting smaller and smaller and it's going to end, then all of a sudden, boom, there's this massive, massive room. I mean, look at that column right there to my right. It's huge. And then notice that the column is kind of split. It has like a chunk missing, and that's because the floor collapsed like, whatever, 30 centimeters or a foot. So some of these formations actually broke apart, like snapped in the middle. And now you can see there's like a hole separating them, which is kind of cool. Look at that insanity. It's awesome. Now notice that even though we're on rebreathers, once in a while you see bubbles come out. And that's because the air expands and contracts depending on the depth. So for most of the dive, if you have been paying attention to the bottom right corner, we've been like at 23 meters, 22 meters, something like that, which is about 60 feet, 60 something feet. And at this particular point, we went up to like 20. So just those couple of meter difference expanded the air on my wing, which makes me buoyant. So I have to release some of the air so I can be neutral again. So I want to be neutral. I want to be right in the middle. Okay, so here we are. We got to, finally, the place where we were supposed to be, which is that cards table that Brian described. And it's just that giant column that he's telling us, see? This, you couldn't see it because the lights were so bright, but that column disconnected from the ceiling. And now it looks like a table. And there he is. He took his rebreather out. Like a card table. So cool. And he's showing us some stuff. He's like, Brian, you kind of need to breathe right now. You tend to forget you're underwater with a rebreather, by the way. It's kind of awesome. Like, at this point right now, I'm not even thinking that I'm underwater. It's just so calm. So peaceful. And he's just talking about all these columns that kind of broke apart and for us to watch. I mean, he does such a good job touring, you know, these places and showing you everything, really. Let's see if he shows the roof where this thing came from. You guys good to keep going? What he's like, oh, hell yeah. This is awesome. All right. We keep going deeper into this cave. Welcome. This is called the Sanity Room. That's right. Woody is on it. I would give anything to be back there right now. That dive was so awesome. And I hope there are any divers watching this, especially any rebreather divers or tech divers that are side mount divers and whatnot. I hope this dive inspires you. I mean, we're not the best divers in the world. This is something that we work towards. I think Woody had been there before. I don't think he has been at the Sanity Room, but he definitely had visited the Crystal Caves. That's why he got certified as a cave diver. This was my first time. I mean, I really worked for a year or two doing a bunch of cave dives and working on my technique with Ed Sorensen and other instructors in order to earn the right to be there. And I think anyone can do it. I mean, if I can do it, obviously anyone can do it. So I hope this is that inspiration for you, and you can make it. Make it your goal. This was my objectives. My whole goal when I became a rebreather diver was to, you know, eventually get cave certified and earn the right to be at the Crystal Caves. So if you notice throughout the whole dive, we are very close to the line. The line's right there. I actually have my hand on it right now, or near it. I think I'm okay in the line. Not because I need it, but because I don't want to get tangled with it. So if I'm going very close to it, I put my hand on it. I either put my palm on it, or I put a circle around it, which is called okay in the line. So you can see it gets tighter again. And we just keep going in. Look at that thing on the right. It's like a wall of crystal. The floor is crystal too. The bottom is crystal. The column right there, crystal. Alright, so I think I'm getting ready to drop another cookie because that looks like a T. Yep, you can see the blue one. That's mine. And that's blue because I couldn't find orange ones. So if you guys have the hookup for orange cookies, please let me know.
Okay.
And those aren't cave cookies, by the way. Those are bread bag clips. If you go to Amazon or online and search for bread bag clips, you will find them. You see it has my name on it. So if you find orange ones, hook me up. I would love to. They're blue right now. I don't complain. Woody gave them to me as a gift. So that was awesome. Alright, notice that on my back I have two spools right there. The number of spools that you carry on a cave dive depends on the plan and what you'll be doing, what your job is. If you're the line person, which is the first person on the team, in this case Brian is the line person, the lead diver, then you'll be doing all the line work. So you will probably carry, you know, all the spools that are needed for the dive. So if you're doing 5 jumps, meaning if you're venturing away from the main line to other lines and connecting to other places, then you have to carry enough spools to make those jumps. Unless you work with your team. You see I'm going sideways here to not break anything, and I'm not kicking at all. Unless you work with your team and you tell, like, the number 2 person, for example, is, hey man, we're doing 8 jumps, can you carry 3? I'll carry 5, or something like that. Like, teams are always, especially if you're the line guy, they're happy to help. It's like, yeah, I'll carry some, you carry some, we're good. And when you get to the jump, they'll just hand it to you. You do the line and you keep going. So in that case, I have 2 because I'm not doing any jumps. They're just for safety. We use spools for a variety of reasons. One of them is a lost line procedure. So if for some reason this place got silted out and I lost sight of the line, I would grab my spool, tie it into one of these rocks, and go find the line. Go try to find it, wherever it is. Each one of these spools has 60 meters of line, or 200 feet. So I can venture out for 200 feet from that rock and always come back and go in another direction. Which was another complaint on the Donald Cerrone video. He said, well, he lost the line. How is he going to find it? Well, we follow a lost line procedure drill. That's another thing that we do in training, and you use a spool for that. The same thing happens if you lose your buddy. So we will tie into the line and go explore away from the line. So that's why I like those 200-foot reels, because 60 meters is a long, you know, a long line. I can go looking for a lost body for a long line, and there's some people that can dive with one of those safety spools that are like, you know, super short, like 10 or 20 meters or something, and you know, that's not a lot. And I like the 200 feet. You don't have to have them. Most people have like 100 or 150, I feel, but those 200s are awesome. They're made by Apex. They're called Lifeline, I think. And they're so awesome. They're pricey, but they're awesome. And I'm not sponsored by Apex. I wish I was, because I like their gear. They have cool stuff, especially those spools, as I mentioned. Now notice that, let me pause it right here. Notice that in some of these cases, I have my knees down, which is not proper cave diving trim. Basically, you want to be horizontal. But like I said, I'm trying to mirror Brian because Brian knows his positioning at any point in this cave. So if you notice a Brian right behind me, he'll have his knees down. See, his knees are down from his head. So I'm kind of mimicking him. Again, he does it way better than me. I'm just trying to follow the leader kind of thing. Unbelievable. Gorgeous. That's right. It is gorgeous. It's unbelievable. So here we're getting to the place where we're trying to get to, which is basically a pool of crystal. And I don't think the camera does a great job capturing this. None of this stuff looks better in camera. I don't care if you have a Red Dragon, whatever, $50,000 camera. It's not going to look as good as it looks with your own eyes. And this crystal pool that we're going to get to is a great example of that. In person, it's breathtaking. It's unbelievable. It's the coolest thing you've ever seen in your life. In camera, it looks okay. So here I'm looking for a room, and I will call Woody and be like, hey, come here. Check this out. I remember this spot like if it was yesterday. I'm like, dude, come here. You gotta see this. You gotta see this. So you see the whole bottom is made of crystal. And the crystal is in like this weird formation. It looks like a maple leaf or some kind of like little flowers. It's hard to explain unless you see it. It's like a cascade of crystal. It's hard to explain. Alright, I'll stop it right there. Well, it doesn't... Maybe if I let it play, you kind of see it, but it looks like... It's not smooth. It's like little flowers.
Okay.
And we'll pass it. We'll pass this place because this is too tight to turn around. So Brian says just go through, don't kick, pull with your hands, and then we'll turn around on the other side. So this is about halfway through the dive. The other half will be going back. So at some point, we're going to turn around. I don't think Woody recorded that part. Here we go. Just like, be careful. I'm going sideways again, pretending to be Brian Kaycock. But on the way back, you'll notice it because we're going to be picking up cookies instead of dropping cookies. We're going to be doing it all in reverse. Come on, Woody, look at the bottom. Show people the bottom. Maybe on the way back. Alright, at least we didn't break anything, so that's great. We got that going for us. And you notice that I'm using my hand to, especially when when there's something that is fragile and I want to make sure I'm not hitting it, and I'm steering the silt in here. He's like, don't stop, just keep going. Yeah, I know, but I have to wait to see what Brian is doing so I can do it. Careful with your fins. Ooh, close. Okay, good. Yeah, and you have to be really mindful of your size as well, where your fins are. It's not just your feet, it's like, what are the tip of your fins doing? That kind of takes a little bit of practice. And at several points in this dive, you'll notice that my fins look like they're going to hit something, and just like at the last inch, I move them away. Sideways. Ooh. See how close that was to those things? And didn't hit him? That's practice. I think right around here is where we turn around, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, maybe on the other side of this restriction. This is deep inside this cave, by the way. I think we were probably, like, if we had to turn around here, like if we had a problem here and had to turn around, it would take at least 45 minutes probably to get out. Just swimming out, not stopping to watch anything, just get out of the cave because you had a problem. It would still be like 45 minutes. Look at the bottom, is the same consistency as the one that I mentioned before. I think right here we're already on our way back. I think we missed the turnaround point. Yeah, this is already on the way back. So we just passed the pool of crystal that I mentioned earlier. But we're already on the way back. Now, on the way back, the cave looks different. The restrictions look different, even though we probably saw them on the way in. They will look completely different, so we'll get to see a little bit of that. If you notice, my light has a really powerful center, whereas Woody's light, the one that he has on his right, is a video light. He's using that because he's recording, but typically he would have a light like mine. And we want a hot center because we communicate with lights. We will ask each other if we're okay, and I don't have to turn around. Like, you will see at some point I will circle in front of me. That's to ask if I'm, you know, if Woody's okay. And he will respond by circling as well. Getting out little by little. See, I'm putting my hand on it, but I'm being careful. And the only reason why I'm putting my hand on it is to make sure that I don't hit it. So I put my hand on that stalagmite. Again, not putting pressure on it or pushing it. I don't want to hit it. Careful. Woody's putting his hand on it too, so you can see. Hey, look at those things. On the right, they're all like draperies. Oof. Tiny flutters. Tiny flutter kicks to get through that. It's like a modified dolphin kick, this one, with both feet moving at the same time. So yeah, it's a variety of techniques that we use in these caves to move forward without breaking anything. It looks like we got to a T. He picked up his cookie. I'm going to pick up mine. And you will notice when Woody gets to that, only his cookie will be left because we already picked up ours. He tells him that his 2 team members are out. So he'll pick up his and keep going. There it is. Now, by the way, on a regular cave dive, the lead diver comes out in the back. So, in this case, you know, Brian was number 1, I was number 2, and Woody was number 3. On a regular cave dive, when we turn around, Woody would have become number 1, I would have been number 2, and Brian number 3. However, because these are guided dives, during the briefing, we talked about the fact that when we get to the turnaround point, Brian was going to go first. So that is not common. That is not normal. That's not how we do cave diving. We did it here because he's a guide and he is, you know, at the front telling us when we need to turn sideways, when we need to use our hands, when we need to not kick, when we need to go low, you know, all that stuff. So notice my knees are down, and that's because more than likely Brian's knees are down too. I'm just trying to do what he's doing. Now my knees are up. So he probably switched, and knees went up. Right, knees down again. And you can see Brian's knees are down too. So we're back around 22, 23 meters, which is the average depth for this dive. Coming up high, which is not normal. You notice that Brian is a little bit lower. I have to push a little bit down. Get back down at depth. Giant, you know, looks like a chandelier type of thing in the ceiling, or on the ceiling, but it's actually it's coming through a hole in the ceiling, which is pretty cool. All that bottom is silt, by the way, and again, the purpose of those frog kicks instead of doing flutters is to not stir it up. But we'll get to some points where that's just going to happen. There's no way to get around it. Okay, going sideways. Dolphin kicks. Tiny dolphin kicks. Woody goes through that. Zero issues. I have to be like, oh my god, I don't want to touch anything. And Woody's just like, whoop. No problem. There's no rhyme or reason, by the way, for the kicking techniques. Notice that I went from like modified dolphin to modified frog kicks. It's really in the feel of the moment. Like I'm not diving and thinking about like I should do dolphin kicks or I should do flutter kicks or I should do whatever. It just comes out. So here we go. He's warning us about the columns. Do not break those. You see my fins get super close to them, but on the last second, they miss it. And Woody does the same too, by the way. This is not just me. This is... We all have that skill over time. And every time you get new fins, it's kind of, you have to relearn it. You have to acclimatize to the size. Here, Woody. Not even sideways. Oh, he went sideways. Okay. I was like, it probably doesn't even have to go sideways there to fit. But he did. So in this dive, for example, I'm using my Apex RK3s. But later on, I switched to the Deep 6 Eddy fins, which I now enjoy a lot more. And I had to kind of get used to them after I started diving them a couple months ago. Look at that crystal column. You just put your light against it and lights like a beam. Yeah, it is awesome.
Wow.
And that one is actually like a corkscrew. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know if Woody got it on video or not, but it looks like a corkscrew when you see it. It's hollow. Inside, it just comes down like a ribbon. Like it spins around. It's super cool. I remember that one. Yeah. Yep, that is another line going to another cave. Now, notice we didn't do a jump there, and that's because we were just looking at that column. We were close to our line. So, no need to make a jump. We were not going to go down that line, but if we were going to go down that line, we would have made a jump from the main line to that other line and go in. So, here I am a little bit high, but it's probably because of all this silt. I probably noticed that, and I'm like, I'm just going to go high. If there's no formations in the ceiling, you can go a little bit higher. But as soon as I see stalactites, I just drop right through the middle. Risking silting, but, you know, I'd rather... The silt will settle, but the stalactites are not going to grow again. At least not while I'm alive. He's signaling something else. We have a couple of more restrictions to go through before this dive, well, at least the video for this dive is over. And I take this opportunity to thank you, everyone, for watching us dive. Sometimes I do get the question, how come we never watch you guys dive? Well, we've noticed that over time, people don't really want to watch us dive as much as we think, or as much as most people think. We like to put our dives out there once in a while, like this is a good example of it. But I wonder how many people are actually watching this whole video. I doubt that the commentary is valuable enough to make you watch, but I hope it gives you some clarity, at least, on some of the techniques and things that we do when we're cave diving. There goes Woody, like the master magician that he is, sliding through no problem. It is so quiet down there. And you do forget that you're underwater. It's awesome. Checking his computer. And here we go. This is one of the last few restrictions that we had. We actually filmed this one on the way back, but now it looks completely different. Or on the way here, now going back, looks completely different. You notice that there's silt there, and I'm gonna kick it because it's tight. But it's not that bad. You can still kind of see through it. So Woody's going through it, no problem. And you see his breathing doesn't even change. He's completely unfazed by it. Awesome. So he's circling to say okay. There we go. And I don't know if you noticed that. I'm going to go back for a second. Notice that there was a circle there to ask if he was okay. Let's see if you can see it. There's a circle. Are you okay? You see how that went? Whoop, that circle. And then we put our lights away to watch his light saying okay. And in some cases, I actually put my light against my chest to completely block it out because I want to see if he's there and saying okay. I don't even look at him. If you go back and rewind it, you'll see. I don't even turn around to see if he's okay. If he makes a circle, he's okay, and I just keep going. The idea is that you can do that swimming. Like, you don't even have to stop swimming. I just make an okay sign, cover my light. I see his okay. We're good. We keep going. This is also a good example of why we don't use... See, my fins are not moving. This is also a good example of why we don't need comms. We don't need full face masks with radios and all of that, because there's no need for it. I mean, we have executed this dive. We're almost all the way out. No need to talk to each other per se. We're communicating with lights. We can even talk a little bit through the rebreathers, but we don't need to hear each other and be like, hey man, that's awesome and whatnot. Anyway, so I hope that you enjoy a glimpse to our dive on day 2 in Abaco. There is more footage where this came from. If you're enjoying watching us dive, please thumbs up, to this video, like this video. And if you're watching this all the way to the end and you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe so you get alerts about them. Some of these videos, by the way, will be members only. If you're not a member, please consider joining Dive Talk. Memberships start at $3 a month, from which after YouTube takes their cut, I think we get to keep $2 of the $3. And obviously those $2 that you contribute that month will help us create more videos like this one. Going to the Bahamas to dive in the crystal caves is not cheap at all, and we will love to continue to keep going places and recording them. A lot of exciting ideas, a lot of exciting stuff. But as I mentioned before, this was dive on day 2. We also released the dive that we took on day 1, which was our Crystal Palace dive, and I'm going to link it right here on the screen. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you watched the whole thing, I admire you, because even though I'm excited about cave diving, I know this is not for everyone. So I really, really appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you next week.